მოგესალმებით. მეხუთე გადაცემა დღეს განსხვავებული გამოგვივა ამერიკიდან. ამჯერად დაგელაპარაკებათ ამერიკელი ინგლისურად. Welcome to the show, Eddie. Today we have, I just told our viewers, today we have our podcast edition number 5, but number 1 in English and number 1 spoken by American, not Georgian. George, if you want to add anything, then let Eddie introduce himself.
Hello, Eddie.
Hey, George.
Yeah, we thank you are here. So just to introduce yourself, our viewers,
Sure.
and then we start what we wanted to say.
My pleasure. Okay. Well, first, thanks, Max and George, for having me. It's an honor to be here and talk to you guys. I think what you're doing is important work and very valuable to not only the people of Georgia, but just people around the world. That's how this country started, from people that were not entirely happy about the way things were running, and they did something about it, right? So that's important. So, yeah, I can only speak from my experience, right? So there's quite a few people, over 300 million people in the United States, and I'm speaking from my experience as somebody that was born and raised. We're fourth generation here. My family, I guess you could say, again, everybody in the States is a blend, right? There's no purebred Americans except for Native Americans. If I got the ancestry test, so I'm Irish, I'm Welsh, I'm English. I even have some Eastern European. They call it. I'm not sure what it is, but there's a name for the region, or they're Norwegian, right? So a lot of the folks that you'll come across that are.
But biggest part is Irish.
Irish, yeah, mostly Irish. My last name is McDevitt, so it's kind of good. Right?
Yes.
So again, my experience. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, and it was a great place to live, great place to grow up. Again, everybody's got their own story. What's common of, we'll say a white Irish man in Philadelphia is to be raised Irish Catholic. So that's the religion that my, parents followed, and their parents and their parents. It's a very traditional type of people. I was raised with a high level of conscientiousness, so working very hard. My father still living, I should say. He's a great example of what a father should be. My mom was a great mom. I had everything that I needed and some of what I wanted, which is all possible here, right? Growing up, I heard stories of what it was like for my grandparents and great-grandparents to get here. So they originally settled in the Scranton Mountain area, which is in central northern PA, and they were coal miners, right? Typical to the immigrant story is coming here with very little. And
we are looking back to
1800s, yeah, late 1800s, right? So that was a very hard life. One of my grandfathers was killed a great-grandfather's was killed in a coal mining accident. The other ones would eventually succumb to illnesses that are related to mining. Also very common is big families, right? So having a sense of family is very common. With people, again, in my area, with my similar experience, it's not my grandparents might have 10, 12 brothers and sisters, and the families were bigger. Obviously, they've begun to get a bit smaller, but in any event, family is very important to me and in my particular specific experience. Now I'm a father myself. I have 2 stepdaughters, 3 of my own daughters, so I'm a father. I'm a business owner. You know, between growing up and now, a lot has happened. You know, I think I'm somebody that can express the way that I experienced my life with an open-minded lens, which I think will help shed some light on not only my but other people's experience, because in Philly in particular, it's a massive melting pot. So my best friend's Brazilian. My business partner is Georgian. You know, I had a
That's why you are here.
Girlfriend from Egypt or Russia. You know, my wife is Italian, right? So like it really is a blend of people, and you get exposed to a lot of different types of cultures. All have their unique little attributes, but you know, I can only speak kind of from my experience. So, you know, that brings me to today, you know, and, you know, like I said, it's just a pleasure to be here, but that's a little bit about kind of my experience and who I am and where I am today. And I guess I'll add one thing, which is I'm very interested in history, very interested in American history. And, although I'm certainly not an expert, I have a lot of appreciation and I think maybe good insight on, you know, how we're even able to sit here and have this conversation today. So that might help a little bit too.
Great. Just tell us a little bit about your business. I see the umbrella.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so...
No, we can promote. I'm sure nobody is going to come from Georgia. But
yeah, so kind of a multiple business owner, but, you know, primarily, as I said, my partner, a dear friend of yours, of course, and mine is, we call him Rocky, right? I'm American, so we say Rocky, but ironically. And we have a roofing business, and we do other types of construction and real estate and things like that. And, of course, I can't say enough about Rocky. And early on, of course, one of my gifts is I'm very curious. And I would always ask him, and he's a wealth of knowledge, and he would tell me about Georgia, and this is very fascinating to me. And, you know, his story, and I'm sure many other people like him, is similar in that it's certainly not easy, but what's great about the States is it makes it possible, you know, which is great. So,
thanks, Eddie. I'm sure we'll have many more meetings and opportunities to talk about Georgia, but that's not why we are here today. We are here to talk greatest country in the world, America, and it would be number 5 edition of since we started podcast. And this will be first English-speaking edition. And to start, when I get question, what brings you here? You can't avoid word freedom.
sure.
So that would be my first question. What is America to you? What is freedom to you? And why we started podcast was to show America and everything American to Georgia. Now it's American talking about America to Georgians. So
Sure.
that's where we can start.
Before start, I just gonna add you probably great explanation will be your family's history. It's very interesting. I always was like looking these first immigrants. So 1800s, it's like almost first immigrants, right? Like second, maybe not Mayflower, but next ship.
Yeah.
So if you know why they came here on that days and what was their like what they did for a living in Irish, or why people came from Europe that days, and what was like
Sure. Yeah. So that's
motivation for this.
That's a really good question.
It's gonna answer Max's question.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I think I can kind of hit on both. They kind of tie together. So yeah. So people started immigrating, attempting to. Remember, it was England, Spain. France made some trips, and the way that it kind of shook out finally was Spain got kind of in Florida, and that's why there's a lot of Spanish influence there. The French ended up more in Canada, and that's why in Canada there's a lot of French speaking still. And the English settled in first in Jamestown, Virginia, and this was in between the 1500s and the 1600s. It's been a long time. The famous story, of course, is the Mayflower in the late 1600s. So between then and 1800s, it's actually a pretty good amount of time. But in any event, why were people coming here, and who was allowed to come here? Well, that actually kind of brings us to what happened in the late 1700s, which is how this country started. So initially, it was a certain type of person from England that was allowed to come and settle here. And what they certainly didn't want were people that wanted to come and call this their own. That was the opposite of what they wanted. They wanted to control this land, right? So it took, initially the king, of England wanted to take and colonize this area. Never did anybody imagine that those people would start to feel a sense of their own independent country here, right? So that was totally unexpected. It happened over time. And in the Declaration of Independence, they explain clearly why. And I think there's 20-something grievances. We can even go through them quickly, if you like. And it explains the resentment that they had towards, their mother country, right? So, but we'll fast forward and we'll get into, we'll put that on the back burner for now, and we'll talk about like why people were coming here. So it's a good question. And frankly, I'm not like an expert on exactly why, but we certainly know that there were famines in Ireland. There's no opportunity, crushing government powers that made it almost impossible to navigate. And
it was under Great Britain.
What is it?
It was under Great Britain, like Irish.
So
Ireland.
that I'm actually not sure of in Ireland at that point. But, there's very little...
looks like, when I see this history, looks like it was big movement in Europe.
Yep.
Like, it's everybody, like neighbors maybe saying, hey, it's somebody left and it's a big opportunity there.
Exactly.
A lot of land.
Let's say you're in a country, the country's poor, there's not a lot going on, the government is not able to even, properly service its sovereign people. So it's here's a new land that's just booming with opportunity, right? So there was the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s, so they're building factories. I mean, it was insane here. There's nowhere you could go that there wasn't some type of boom going on, even if it's in a farm town. I mean, this was like the place to be. So that spirit of almost exploration and really taking a risk, I think it's in a lot of the blood of the people from like mainly Western Europe. So Italy, Ireland, these people came after the English had, settled and America was started, right? So these are like two different things. This is like America had been established, and now we have a huge amount of Irish and Italian that kind of come in next, and then followed by lots and lots of other different, nationalities of people. So, the answer is more opportunity, and like, why wasn't there opportunity? Well, of course, Europe was war torn. There had been multiple wars and all these types of issues there, and this was a place that they could kind of establish and start a new life, and that's what they did. Of course, it wasn't easy, so that's the story of a lot of immigrants. But of course,
yeah, but that's after that's. I think it's a major part America makes America, because it was like naturally came here people who can take high risk.
Exactly. Right.
Even now, when we came in the 20th century, was like risky, but I imagine 18th.
Yes.
Take a ship.
Yeah.
How long it was taking? Maybe
weeks up to a month. Yeah.
Taking ship to nowhere.
Yeah,
and,
nowhere,
no
and
phone,
nowhere.
no messenger.
And
nothing.
you cannot go back that like easy.
Yeah.
So I imagine how crazy you should be,
right.
like a good contest.
Yep.
So
ambitious people.
Ambitious
exactly.
people, and then we got like ambitious people from whole Europe.
Right. Exactly.
And it was no way anybody can like stop these people.
Yep. And this is this is in the people's blood, right? This
Right,
ambition,
yeah.
this high level of conscience. So that's, that worked out well. And what was so, of course, great about here, and we can now maybe revisit what I was talking about, was the nature of as to which it was created. So this is the most important thing, which is the series of founding documents that made this the freest place in the world, right? There's nothing more free.
Because when they came, it was no king here.
There's never a king.
Yeah,
I mean,
never a king.
there was never a king. So, if you guys want to like dive into the founding documents, it'll lead to the conversation of freedom. But and to kind of sum it all up, what does freedom mean to me? Well, I never even really needed to think about it, because when you're born here, generations later, you don't even think about it, right? Isn't that like, we take it for granted. We never in a million years would think that there is even any pressure to
Somebody
not
can,
be
yeah.
free. Yeah, like it's the normal thing to do here. It's very normal. We all kind of like know our rights, and the way that they wrote the documents, this is important. This is very important. The way that they wrote the documents was they said that we can't even put it all into writing because we know that they're God-given. So they couldn't even get it all on paper because...
You mean Constitution?
The Constitution,
okay.
Right? So it's God-given. Well, certainly that would mean,
how are you gonna write?
How are you gonna put all that into paper?
Right.
But we can also know, God obviously is not putting another man that's going to oversee and control your every movement. That's just not right? It's not inherently right. So what they're talking about, that the Bill of Rights and these gifts, they come from God. They're divine. So I have the right to my own protection, the right to pursue happiness, the right to assemble, the right to speech. You can literally say anything you want here, right? So I could go and stand in the front of the White House with a sign that says, basically you can say anything you want that's not going to incite a riot. That's kind of how it's written, which makes sense. You don't want to go...
America burn to
right.
hell.
You probably could say that. You actually, I don't know.
I've seen it in London, in Hyde Park.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's an elevated chair.
Yeah.
And there's preachers.
Yeah.
And it was 2002, right after, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Bush was all over the world, and those... preachers looked like protesters, and they were like, burn England to hell, and it was okay somehow.
Yeah.
No one, like...
Right. So here, you can say whatever you want. There's a lot of freedoms that are just like inherent, and like I said, when they wrote it that it comes from God, which is important. And you can pursue any religion, you can pursue any idea, as long as you're not hurting anybody or trying to get other people to hurt people. You can kind of do whatever you want here. The freedoms are so vast, we couldn't even cover them all. I mean, from economically, of course, this is a capitalist nation. You can make as much money as you want. You can make as little money as you want. You can have any religion you want. You can say whatever you want. You can do all these things.
So it's only one thing: you cannot hurt somebody else.
Unless you're defending yourself.
Besides this, you can do anything, pretty much anything.
You're certainly, and another beautiful thing about America, of course, you're absolutely entitled to not only hurt, but take another person's life if they're doing the same, if they're hurting you first, right? So that's an important part of America that, of course, I firmly believe in, is the right to keep and bear arms, right? So that's important because God made it that way, right? God didn't create you to be destroyed by some authoritarian militia or government.
Right.
He created you because he wanted you to experience your life.
But there was a Second Amendment, so it was originally thought of, or what? Tell me that part. Like, why did they need
amendment.
Well, okay.
So it wasn't there, right?
Right. Okay. So the Constitution.
How they missed it.
Okay. So it's interesting. So they wrote the Constitution in like the late in 1776 was Declaration. By 1780 something, they had the Constitution written, and then within 10 years they had the first 10 amendments, which are kind of the most important as far as what we're talking about. Right. The first 10 are like human rights. Well, the Constitution really doesn't dive into individual rights. It lays out the government structure. So it lays out...
It gives you just a
framework.
Frame.
Yeah, yep. Courts, how Congress works, House Representatives, how taxes will be raised. All the things that they hated about England, is they completely... I think it's incredibly brilliant how they wrote the Constitution. So then shortly thereafter, they're like, wait, we need to... add some stuff because we didn't talk about, Joe Schmo, the regular guy. We need to make sure we ensure his rights. And the reason, if we're talking specifically, let's say about the Second Amendment, is because if the government, really it was written because if the government gets out of hand, it really wasn't written to protect me from you or you. It was actually written so that I could protect myself from a government if they get out of hand. So that's how amazing this document and these founding papers are, that they built in ways of checking the government, not the other way around. And the first three words...
No, not each other.
Not each other.
People to government.
Right, to the government.
Yes.
Like you can protect yourself from the government. But the first three words, and this is interesting, is... of the Declaration of Independence, and this is what I think sums up freedom, is we the people. So what that means is we the people, so the individual citizens of the United States, are the most powerful people. It's the government that serves the people. So I always give the example. If you walk into the White House, right, with the President Biden, the way that the country is structured, and it might not like anecdotally feel this way, but you're more powerful, you're more important than him. His job and his life is to serve you, right? And that's how all the government works. And there's a lot of people in the United States that are very willing to make sure that that is happening and continues to happen. These documents are incredibly important to many, many people in the United States. Not everybody is like into this, and you don't have to be. Not everybody is a patriot. Some people that live here maybe don't even like America. You can do whatever you want, right? Like you can think whatever you want. But there's, of course, a lot of data and a lot of information out there that points that this is, I don't know if I even want to say the greatest country in the world, because that's up to you. If you want to call this the greatest country in the world, if that's your experience, that's fine. I haven't been to every country in the world. But I can say that
you don't have to be to say this.
I just can't imagine at least the framework being any better.
But that's a famous question. What makes America great?
Mm-hmm.
Like what makes for you great? For me, like what you say now, that like how government looks to people and people to government, like this approach.
Right. Yeah.
Because a lot of countries is other way.
Of course it is. Yeah. That's why
that makes like living more here more exciting and interesting, at least.
And it's funny, whoever wrote, I don't know exactly at that moment, but if they were not government, they wanted to be government. Mm-hmm. So they were like, we need this to protect you from us.
Right.
And exactly. I'm writing this.
Exactly. So that's a great point, Max. Yeah. So we should talk about, just briefly, about who wrote it. Like, who wrote this stuff? Well, just put yourself in this position. You came to this new land, and the king, and he's using all of his power to extort you nonstop. It's in the grievances, like I said, we can go through. But in every single way, obviously taxing, making it very difficult to operate, to do anything. He would quarter soldiers, so you would be forced to keep soldiers in your house. They would eat your food. They would use your resources, right? So one of the amendments, it says that the government can't move into your house. There's one of the amendments is built for that. So all these things are addressed. But this group of men would sit around a table in bars at night, and they would organize, and they would say, I can't believe this is going on. I'm getting so sick of this. And then somebody introduces the idea of, we should start our own thing. Just imagine you're there. We should just do our own thing. Here we are. We're 5,000 miles away. We can do this ourselves, And some of the smartest and brightest people came together to lead these people. And so these are just regular people without any power or ties to any type of government that work,
or nuclear buttons or something.
Right. And this is just, they're just talking over beers, and
who was it? Jefferson?
So it'd be like George Washington, Jefferson. There's a ton. There's a lot of guys and people.
The picture, like the picture, like famous picture.
Yes.
Like American.
Yep. Hancock.
Painting.
Hancock.
Yep. Hancock, Madison. Right. These are guys, and of course, there's probably tons of people that we never heard of that were a part of this, and they built it exactly the opposite of what they
Washington's,
want. Of course, yeah,
first
of course,
president.
yep. And ultimately, that led to a revolution. Now, you imagine again, same situation. Now, you and all your buddies are like starting to talk like we should just do something about this, right? Men that are being
that second amendment, if I remember, was after civilian war.
After the Civil War,
yeah.
That's down the line. That's another war that's inside the United States. So we haven't got there yet.
Okay.
That's now we go to war with ourselves, but that's later.
But it was before, way before.
Way before, yeah.
Okay.
So like Revolutionary War, which is the war with England,
right,
is in the late 1700s,
right,
and the Civil War is in the like mid 1800s. So it took us like not long to go to war with each other.
That was that's 13 states.
Yes,
right?
yep, originally. So that's the first 13.
And we are the first capital city.
Yes, yep, Philadelphia was. They moved it to protect it because it was so dangerous back then.
So then King said, no, you can't be free. You can't be free.
Of course,
And
yeah, of course. And
that's where we were kind of.
Yeah,
King from England.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So you guys crazy drinking too much beer there.
Right, exactly. So they begin to form militia, and eventually the first shot gets fired. Right. So imagine you go home from drinking and you have all these ideas, and now you have English soldiers who are extorting you, eating your food, which you don't have a lot of, taking the money that you don't have a lot of, and you get very resentful. You hate these people at this point. What would you do? Well, eventually somebody gets killed, and it starts a war. And amazingly, if you watch just the story of the revolution is insane, because initially they were kind of getting their asses kicked. This is England versus a bunch of guys with guns, but they continued to fight. And they got some help from some other nations and some different places, and they were able to make it happen. And it all happened right here, which is really cool. And I think ironic about your show, we're in Old City. This is literally where that was happening, which is kind of cool about this location. I mean, we can visit the building.
5-10 minutes walk from
Liberty
Congress.
Bell. Yes, Liberty Bell's right here. Yeah. Yep. So it's a really good spot and fitting for what you're talking about.
Always wanted to ask, and it's maybe off, but I don't want to forget. We have one word for in Georgian, liberty and freedom. What is how you can explain me? What is different between freedom and liberty?
Well,
why you need two names?
Yeah,
it's one meaning.
Independence.
That's a pretty good question. Well, I guess liberty, I think, is pointing more to like a nation state, something like that. To have a liberty, coming from the word liberty, liberal, a liberty. A liberal or a liberal state is something that has the flexibility and the use of the people first, I think, would be maybe the way to say that. And a people that are trying to advance and get better and better, and you're liberated, so you're free. It's kind of saying the same thing, I guess. But, to be liberated is to be free from any type of tyranny.
Okay.
And then I think freedom is maybe more of a personal approach to the same concept. Where again, you're not nobody's coming to kick our door in to get money or, nothing like that is going to happen here. We can't be extorted, in any way by the government or any other entities here. Again, because there's just so many levels to it, but people just take it so seriously here. And what was really interesting to me in my experiences was, like I said, one of my best friends growing up was from Brazil. And he said in Brazil, if you call the police, well, they show up 30 minutes later, you got to pay a guy off and blah, blah, blah. And if you know somebody, like here, that would be on the front page of the news. The fact that we have good policing, that for the most part, of course, there's corruption everywhere, but most politicians are doing the right thing most of the time, right? So, and if they don't, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal if you get caught doing anything here. And there's people that make it their life's work to make sure nothing shady's going on and that people are doing their job. You can go on YouTube right now and find people that all they do is go confront police officers and make sure they're not abusing their power. Same with politicians, same with judges, same with attorneys. So it's just ingrained here, that we don't want to see any injustice. We don't want to see anybody abusing their power. In America, we really get off on exposing somebody because it's just in the fabric here that we don't tolerate it, if that makes sense.
Yes, it's and it comes with the generations.
Yeah,
generations.
Sure.
If we want that countries was before, like not too free, it's not gonna happen overnight.
Right.
It takes time.
That's right. Yeah, it took a lot of time, and a lot of people had to die.
Right.
So, and just like any other country, I mean, I guess we're kind of speaking to people from Georgia that are seeing in Americans. I don't know what people see or think of America, but like you're probably going to see what's in the news or the media because you can't be here, and I can only see what I can see. So, but as far as what's out there. I don't think any of that is the average American's experience. Like the average American, we just kind of go.
Oh, you mean the propaganda saying there?
Yeah, like I don't know really too much about what they are showing, but
they showing probably they catch some news in California. They got some crazy laws, maybe it's a school, so you need to tell genders, genders and
genders, yeah.
So that like this,
yeah.
And they say, okay, whole America is like this.
Okay.
If I send my kids there, they gonna get gay.
Right. Is that what that's
right away?
Okay.
I mean, they showed the transgender party at school. Some village in California, which is not. I have not had 2 kids in school. Never heard of it.
So,
but the news,
selective news.
But that news are here. But if you show only this, then makes you like, okay, whole America is like this.
Every school is like that.
Okay, so in America, these are headlines to us too. This is not even. This is news to me too, right? As somebody that's just an average guy that is, I'm a straight white man living in America. This is new to me too, and it may make for interesting headlines for some people. Of course, there's a whole scale of how you look at things, right? And you can do that here. That's fine. But there's a monumental effort to be very, very careful with what children are seeing and things like that. I think that particular kind of viewpoint, would be pretty far out to the left. And that's a very small percentage of people. Like I can tell you, I, for one, I'm just like a compassionate person. I understand that some people are going through whatever it is, maybe with their sexuality or even that's fine to me. I'm not going to say that doesn't happen, but at some point we need to be responsible to what people should and shouldn't be telling children and things like that. Right. So I think that kind of sheds light on America. Like you could do what you want, but we don't want to hurt other people. So we don't want to tell kids that this is what they're too young to understand.
This is normal.
Yeah, right. And it's not, I don't need to even work at that because there's already tons of people in tons of positions of political power that are making sure that they don't get out of hand, right? That whole kind of thing. So that is far from the experience of a regular
but
American
that's
person.
Russia use this
Yeah,
pretty like they play like a smart.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to portray America as maybe kind of soft.
Yeah, like you take only that news and just.
Or they can show YouTube video from Kensington Avenue.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Do you know what it is?
I do. We live we're 20
I'm not
minutes
even
away.
saying it, but you already know.
Yeah.
So now that makes whole America
Look like drugs.
like that.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it's not legalized here.
Yeah.
Maybe there would be no Kensington Avenue if it was legalized.
Who knows? I mean, who knows? It's a big problem for sure. I mean, we have a lot of problems. It's certainly not perfect. Nobody claims that it's perfect. There's drugs here. There's all types of there's problems anywhere. It's not. That's just a human being thing. Human beings come with problems. They come with addictions and emotions and trauma and all this kind of stuff. But by and far. If you took 100 average American men, we'll say, maybe 1,000, most Americans are hardworking. Most Americans are family oriented. Most Americans are tough, tough people. Like, they're really not fucking around.
Right.
Excuse my language. I don't know if we can curse here.
It's very good for.
But that's just the way that I was raised. Again, this is my experience. Nobody's
do it again, please.
But they're not.
Buzzwords.
Yeah, they're not. This is you could go.
Mostly, like you're trying to say, mostly normal people.
Yes.
Yes.
Most people are totally normal, right? Most people are normal. They're in the center. So politically in the center. You're going to be a moderate conservative to a moderate liberal, which is if you're in the moderate conservative side, you just think a strong economy and a strong military is good. You kind of could care less maybe or not care as much about the social things, but you still think they're important and they're, all these things on the social side and education and equality are important. You're in the middle. And then let's say you're on the liberal middle side, you're going to say that things like equality and social issues and reform are pretty important, and maybe the military and how much we spend are not as important. That's where like 98% of people are just like in the middle. And we know that because that's where the voting goes. We know that because the House and that all of our Congress is split right down the middle. Most of these people are centrists. It's really a country of centrists.
Same view.
Yeah, right. So not on the far right. Like, in fact, me who I lean a little bit to the right. I think that for me, I'm it's just politically conservative on things like the military. I like to see a strong military, and of course, I need strong economics, especially as an entrepreneur. Socially, I think it is important that we make sure that people are included and that our education systems are solid and that we're investing in the next generation. Like, I think that's important. I just lean like a little bit to the right. You can lean a little bit to the left and we can have a conversation. It's not a problem. I don't want to like go down the abortion thing, really, but like we can just look at it. It's something that in some cases it might have to happen. Like we don't go into these crazy hard right, like that should never happen or crazy. It's very rare that you see those kinds of people we kind of ostracize, like they're nuts. Most people are in the middle, hardworking. They just want to make it. They want to feed their kids. They want to have a decent house.
Yeah, that's if you don't have any like special interest of something, probably the like ordinary normal people, even if you don't read anything, you have common sense.
Yeah, that's what it's
so
based
that's what
on.
it is. So for like logically in common sense,
Yes.
it's supposed to be like this.
That was the name of the brochure they handed out when the country was being founded. They had a brochure. It said common sense.
Right.
And that's what it was founded on. It was founded on common sense. Doesn't make any sense to me to have like a magical king and queen in a palace.
Yeah, you cannot write it down everything. You should
Right.
have common sense and then decide, because every moment can be like only only the moment.
Right.
So you cannot like spread of everything.
Right. Common sense. We'll talk about that, George. Like it makes no, like when, Rockley tells me stories, people tell me, it makes no sense to me. Like when somebody says that you have to have a certain connection to start a bit, like all that to me doesn't make any sense. It's very confusing, right? Like I'm like, how would anybody stand for that? Like we wouldn't have that here. If somebody came to my office door and said, hey, if you want to stay in business, like the mob, right, like you have to pay, I would be like, I'm going to call the police, and they're going to come, and they're going to make a report, and you're going to get arrested for extortion. It'll be like in the news, like it's over, So this is just makes sense to us. Like all these things, we don't even need to spend a lot of time thinking about it because it's just all here for us. So I think, and I've talked about this before, like I think some of the radical stuff is because we don't have enough to worry about. Maybe makes so much sense. We don't
makes a life easier.
Yeah, we don't need to dissolve all these problems that we shouldn't even have because we already got a good framework. And I think most people would agree with that for sure.
So most problems solved, and now you have
with
to
the
worry
make up new
about
ones.
78 genders.
Yeah. I think that's might be some of it,
Yeah.
I think that might be some of
Creating
it.
problems.
And
you
if
don't get bored, right?
If we asked some of these folks, and I don't know, because I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think some of these people that are way out there, I think their parents had some, maybe usually they're from the university, they had some money.
When I'm listening to them, it's I know it's going out of common sense.
Sure,
something.
of course.
So then it's not. You can watch it like a fantasy movie,
Right.
but it's not the life.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these people, if you dove into it, guys, is they have money. A lot of people, they send their kids, and their kids become, and they have, a lot of those people they have a lot of money, and so they just have no problems, and they just want to make somebody pay attention to them. I think that might be a lot of it. And
I've heard
ego.
Yeah.
I've heard the conspiracy theory that China is funding all this
Maybe I don't know.
to make America weak.
Look weak. Well, the problem with that is you haven't met enough military men. Go talk to some Marines, and go talk to some of our look at our. If you just look at our military and you dive in past all the bullshit that you're reading and you see who these guys are, like I know some of them personally, a lot of Marines, and I know a lot of police officers, and like they're just the baddest guys on the planet. These are some of the smartest guys on the planet. They got more money to buy more technology and more. It's really crazy, the military. And in fact, I don't even, hopefully we don't even spend as much as we're spending, but it's $800 billion is our defense budget. It's a lot of money. And I'm fine with that if that's what it's got to be for now, But people like to say a lot of things about but nobody really tests the United States in any substantial way. Like might make the news if some shit happened in Syria or but like nobody would come and try anything with America unless they really wanted, I think, a real.
The escape
problem. I mean,
I'm sure we are
nothing pisses American people off more, and nothing brings us together. Like, were you guys here? Did you live here during 9/11?
No, 4 years.
I came
2004.
22.
Okay, I'm getting the chills.
2002. I came.
I'm getting the chills just thinking about how much it brought people together. I mean, everybody. You couldn't look without seeing 100 American flags. All the party lines dissolved. We all had one goal, which was to get even.
So you think people really got upset?
People were horrified.
Why?
Why?
What's happened? Like, how they take it?
Well, everybody was horrified, but everybody was angry. And it brought everybody together, after the 9/11 attacks.
Saying what? It should not happen, or why we are spending too much money for military if this is happening, or?
No, it wasn't any conversations like that. It was just like, we want to find out who did this and blow everything up. Yeah. It was serious. I mean, it was like, it was the craziest thing that ever happened. It wasn't. There wasn't a lot of conversations as to why. It was just who and how quickly can we get there. If that makes sense.
It was anger and push for revenge. I
But
guess.
it brought everybody together. So whenever something serious happens here, we drop our, most people drop their little dramas and just come together for sure. That's something that I think is nice about living here as well.
Yeah, so people feeling this is their country.
Oh, big time. Big time. Yep.
That we have problem in Georgia and post-Soviet countries probably mostly because so long government or another country takes like your country and they are they are putting their power there, so people does not feel it's their country.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem.
Right.
And a big problem is there to it's so hard to like for the people to get like really what common sense means, because for when you dictate everything, so it's you don't need to decide everything. Everything is like almost close to North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to think about it. Anything you don't need to. You don't have really any problem. You need to think. So government is gonna decide for you, and you have no choice almost. So
you don't want to have choice.
You go study and they give you job and you have to work exactly on the job. So Soviet Union was you cannot say no.
Well, what happens if you say no?
It was some time there they go by streets, and if 3 people on a working time on a street, they arrested. It's because you are unemployed.
Unemployment was crime.
Right. It's a good way to get people to work. Oh, God. Oh, shit. Yeah.
That's too sorry.
Yeah. I mean, that is, that's interesting. It's so hard for me to wrap my head around, and where do you begin? How do you begin to even have a conversation? And let me back up with the states and why it's been able to be controlled by the people. We became, very powerful, and to the north of us is Canada, who's a dear ally, not a threat to us. To the south of us is Mexico, who we have pretty good relationships with, minus some issues with immigration, whatever. But the point is, they're not a threat to us. On the western side, we have the Pacific Ocean, thousands of miles, and on the eastern side, we have the Atlantic Ocean. So I think what people underestimate is the most profoundly important and strategically advantageous thing about America is really just where it is. We can't really be attacked. It's like we're fortified in so many ways that it's really hard for anybody even just to get here. So that was like the biggest thing. That's really how the whole thing started, because like England couldn't get here quickly. Like everything was a big thing. Like you can't just you can't put a let's say that we had issue with China. They can't put like an aircraft carrier like 10 miles off of New Jersey. Like you'd be 1,000 miles away, and not even. You'd leave your port, and the CIA would know about it. Like it's like crazy, like what they know. But you can't really get here. So the one of the things that you guys talk to is when I hear the stuff that makes no sense. I wonder if you're able to do anything, because sometimes the only thing that you can do is fight, right? Like fight or say no, but it's like you have these powers that'll just arrest you for it, so it's like, what do you do? And at least in the States, we were fortified, but like, for example, like Georgia, it's very central to other nations that may or may not be hostile, and I don't know exactly, but it can be challenging, I think, as some of these smaller nations that are maybe near more powerful areas to do that, because they can so easily reach their influence into other areas. Not to say that it's not possible. I'm just saying that that was an advantage for sure for the states, and continues to be one of its biggest advantages. That tied in with the nature of the founding papers, so its location and the framework is like the perfect kind of story.
I got
Does that make sense?
this. Yes, but today's day, you can choose like what you want. Like you can, you have. I think you have great example like of U.S. and you can. You cannot take everything, but you can take like this major framing
Sure.
and give people liberty.
Yeah.
Like we touched this drug policy a little bit, but you ask about this flag. So it's a one party, like political party in Georgia, which is called Kirchi. It's pine. Like they just call
pine
it
cone.
Yeah. I
pine
see
cone.
pine cone. Yeah. Cool.
And they were able to make change on a law when you smoke marijuana.
It was
They-
even
they-
an
they
amendment to Constitution.
They don't arrest you, because before they can arrest you if you just smoke.
So this party was
marijuana.
able to accomplish that?
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
It was a big. I think it was a big deal.
Yep. Shouldn't be a crime to smoke a plant that grows in the ground, so long as you're not hurting anybody.
Right.
Yeah, but
So-
it's still a long way to go, because the Constitution says you can smoke it, but law says you can't buy it. You
you
can't
cannot
grow it.
buy
You
and
can't
you
grow
cannot
it. Yeah, you
plant
can't grow
it.
it.
Well, you can
plant
smoke.
it,
Right.
but,
You smoke it.
but when you
I
ask
don't know how you got it.
how you
Yeah.
gonna
How you gonna get it? Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you buy it, it's a crime.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A big thing with drugs is decriminalizing. Stuff like that. It's just people get drugs, some people.
it's not good like drug, but it does not make sense to take to jail the people for this.
You're right, and I would add that it depends on the drug. Some people are hugely benefited by marijuana, more so than dangerous narcotics and other like pharmaceutical drugs. And we need to, all countries need to look at that, and we need to say if this is helping somebody, and this is getting them through, and they don't have to take this or that, or if it's improving your life, if you're pursuing your own version of happiness, whatever that is, and you're not hurting anybody, we should be looking at that.
Oh, we are here now in U.S. on this like marijuana deals now. It's like totally legal now, or
So it depends. It's still illegal at the federal level, I believe. But now, I mean, a lot has changed. When I was younger, it was still pretty illegal in most places, and then it started becoming decriminalized, which is kind of similar. Like if you smoke it, or if you have a little bit of it, it's really not a crime. It could be a ticket. And then it became like all out legal in a lot of places, especially the more liberal states like Colorado, Oregon, California.
Colorado was the first one.
I think so. Yeah. They usually lead the way in drug, whatever out there. But there's still some places where, especially in the Midwest, that are more conservative, that it's still illegal. But and this is anecdotal, but like my experiences with any police officer really today is if you have a little bit, they could care less if you have a little bit of personal use marijuana. I mean, maybe it depends where you are. You could still get in trouble for it, but it's really rare to see somebody get a marijuana charge today. It's really rare,
But it was before, like 20 years ago.
Yeah, there was way more. Yeah. It's pretty recent. The liberal approach to marijuana is really the last decade or so.
Yes.
Yeah. Remember, I want to remind you America was extremely conservative for a long time. Even the Democratic Party was very, very conservative. A lot of things, even homosexuality, these things were illegal just 80 years ago, or in the 50s and 60s. These things were still illegal. So this is a very, very conservative country. So to go and say that it's about gender. It's really not. I mean, the fabric of this country is extremely conservative, for sure.
In the major part is conservative.
Yeah, overall, it's fairly conservative.
Yeah. Okay. I want to say a little bit about social things here.
Sure.
2 days office going pretty much this side, the Bidens.
Yeah, yeah.
But what do you say about like how American looks like social responsibilities or like taxes? Let's start with the taxes. So what I see, the government takes taxes like people like we are like working, hard working, and then spend some crazy things. Now I remember like few times ago,
And crazy countries.
Biden wanted to pay student loans
Yep.
from taxes, which is, I think, not too right. It's pretty social thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what is your view?
Well, I think that a lot of things in politics are done to like appease an audience, like maybe make them more willing to vote for you. I think some things are presented literally just as a show. Like that's not really going to happen. You know, it'll never happen.
Okay. So you don't believe this bullshit?
I don't. Well,
It's like build the wall through Mexico.
Right.
Did it happen?
Yeah, like some things are just
But
ideas.
you already know. You already know it's bullshit.
I do, yeah, but some people I think may believe it. But
Yeah.
I think any common
But
sense person.
mostly people know it's
It's
not gonna happen.
It's something that politicians say to get a rouse out of their following.
Right.
You know, like this could be something. If you want to get young college kids or grad to vote for you, you say, "I'm gonna pay your student loans." Of course. Now all of a sudden you got a lot of votes. But it's never going to happen. And if they ever, whenever they do any type of legislation that's a social paid for thing, it's under insane scrutiny, and eventually they go away if they ever come up. So. Again,
that's a great point because from outside the U.S., when they hear this like news,
yeah,
they think, it's they take as a fact.
yeah,
But really, the American people knows it's for advertisement.
it's an advertisement.
Yeah.
If that things like that happened, it would create a real problem with the people that are still paying their student loans or have paid them, right? These people are going to be very, very upset. You can't give to one and not another, right? Like
then say why I pay. Right.
Well, then you got a problem with another part of your voting base, right? So it's like, yeah, these are things that I think they use as like kind of a little bit political tool. I don't even think they believe that that's possible. There are some,
but they are still saying this.
Yeah, of course. And there's politicians, I think, that do believe that it's the right thing to do. And they do believe that, for example, we should tax billionaires the highest, which they already are high. We could talk about the taxes, but I'm not an expert there, but I know the basics. And we should give to other people. But there's like all this different data out there that analyzes economics and should we be taxing these people at the top more, and like what's fair and what's not, and it's always going to be a thing. But we do know that the country wasn't built on giving anything to anybody, to just giving things away. In some cases, of course, we have welfare programs for the poorest of the poor, the most
which is acceptable.
Okay. The most disenfranchised of disenfranchised people that maybe they've got something going on in their head. Maybe they were abused. There are like, again, being open-minded. And as a conservative, you can't just sit here and say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, get a job. It's not fair. Mm-hmm. Not here, not as advanced as we are. People go through stuff. I've seen people go through things, and they get believe me, their life is not good. Right? Their life is not good. They live in the worst areas, in the worst conditions, with the worst education, the worst transportation, with no shopping, with no opportunity. Right, so the best thing you can do here, again, America is based a lot on money, right? Obviously, money is a big thing here. And I would say it's not the best place in the world maybe to be, to be happy. You can be as happy as you make your mind up to be, but it's, I think, the best place in the world to make money for sure. And, maybe the two are tied together, but this is a seriously money-driven society. And we already know statistically that, income, money is going to create, it's directly tied to a better experience, a better life. You can get better food, education, healthcare, all these things by the use of money. And that's what America's done. It's created a platform, very open market, where anybody that's willing to add value to the market will get in exchange the money that they deserve, and then they can live their life accordingly, right? So it's really like a big balance. There's not a lot of giveaways here at all. And
mostly people keep their money.
What do you mean?
Like in Canada, it's a 50%.
Yeah,
they take
50% is really high.
It's I can imagine like.
Yeah. So as
I imagine how it stops the economy to most.
Yes. So it would be very uninteresting to want to start a business there, right? So you want to basically tax people to the point where, it's fair that they can afford it. It doesn't kill them. So it's the United States tax system. First of all, there's 3, sometimes 4. You have a federal tax. It's your biggest tax, right? And in the federal tax, there's programs that you should pay into, which is Medicare, which is excellent health insurance. When you retire, you get it. Right, it's just yours to have. Great program. It was started in the, 50s, 60s. I forget what president it was. Medicare is a great program. You don't have to, when you get old and you're losing it, you don't want to worry about like health insurance and who should I. So that's built in, and it's the best healthcare you pretty much you can get. I was in medical device sales, and as soon as we heard Medicare, we knew they're going to cover it, right, for the most part. And it also covers unemployment, or I'm sorry, that's state. Medicare,
Social Security.
Social Security, yeah. Social Security is the other one, right? So this is a direct payment that you pay during your working years into the Social Security pot. They, not to go down, but they invest it, whatever. They try to make more out of it, and then you get paid when you retire, right? So now you have some income, and you have health care, at least. Even if you didn't save anything, you've got something, right? So it's a federal level. Then
if
you
need any surgery, you can
Yep.
go. So.
100%. So then you have the state level, which is like unemployment, covers unemployment, a lot of state programs, stuff like that. Of course, there's all the general taxation for roads and infrastructure. And then we have generally a local tax. So you're probably in Montgomery County, or I don't know if it's Huntington Valley, like how they do it. But
it's a mostly property tax, right?
No, there is.
So I'm talking just income tax.
Yeah,
So if we're just talking like you made $100,000, you're going to pay about, I'll give you a ballpark, about 20-something% to the feds, to the federal government's by far the biggest. The state, most states is like 1%, could be 3%. Jersey's kind of high, like it's 3%. So now let's say you're at 22 federal, 3 or so state. So you're at 25. Local could be another 3, 5. So if you're over 30%, and then it goes by how much money you make. Right, so if you make like only 40, 50,000 or below, you're lower, and it goes up. It also gets cut in half as you have children. You get big reductions, and when you get married, you get big reductions. So it's tiered really nicely, and I think as fair as it's going to get. People cheat and do stupid stuff, but it's a very good system. In order to buy anything, you have to have good tax returns, so you can't really cheat. Like if you want to borrow money, you got to have tax returns that are legitimate.
It's the best way to show your income.
Yes. So the IRS is, people are scared of it, but maybe that's because they're doing something they shouldn't do. I don't know. But, you want to have good here. There's a really great credit system, making sure that you pay all your bills. I don't know if that's across the globe, but here, like your bills are whether or not you pay your credit card, your mortgage, it's reported to the credit bureaus. So you get a credit score, and then you have your income that you can prove, so you can go borrow money.
It's a rewarding system.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
the key.
Yeah.
A lot of people come to me, they want to buy a house, and they say, "Oh, I make 100,000." Okay, show me your tax return.
Right,
it's 15 on it.
Yeah, the rest is cash. I'm a waiter. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
You got to put it on your tax return.
Okay,
right?
And then what do I have to do to buy a house and file right taxes?
file
and
your
next
returns.
year they come back.
Yeah.
So it's like system is trying to also credit history.
Sure. Yep.
If you mess up, it punishes you. You can't buy a house, no
Yep.
matter how much income you have. So
Yeah, America. There's a word here. It's one of my favorite words. It's called a meritocracy. So a meritocracy, it comes from the word merit, MERIT. A merit meaning you get here what you put in, right? If you're the best podcaster, here's $1 million. Congratulations. Here's a deal with this guy, this guy. If you're the best real estate investor, if you're the hardest working guy, you get paid this. It's a merit. It's based on merit, everything here. So if you don't do shit and you sit around and complain, you have no work ethic, you're done. I mean, you're left, you're left behind.
You have choice.
You have a choice, of course, yeah. It's all based
So
on
if
choice.
you
yeah.
say, okay, I'm lazy,
I wanna be a
the-
loser.
but,
Yeah,
no,
you can do that.
I don't have like motivation to
Yep.
have maybe like million income.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's your choice.
Yep.
So you don't work. And
You could do that
don't
here.
gonna have it.
You could do that here. You're never going to
Yeah.
get out of your parents'
for
basement.
for me, it's maybe more important to have more free time than to like put all my energy for the money.
A lot of people like that here. A lot of people
Yeah.
are more into art, music. You hear like the story of the broke
Well,
artist.
I don't care.
They don't care. Yeah, and that's fine. Like you can do that.
Well, it's your choice, but-
Just don't hurt anybody. Don't break the laws. You're still supposed to file a tax return even if you don't make any money. But you're absolutely free to do that. In fact,
In fact, then
We-
you cannot buy the Porsche. You're gonna buy the Ford.
You're gonna buy a bus ticket. We don't encourage people to be like lazy, but we do encourage people to explore the arts here,
Right.
big time. This is a huge. I mean, this is.
But they can make big money. Like
course.
Hollywood, but you need to be lucky too.
Yeah, I mean, athletics, music, entertainment,
But
movies.
it's high risk.
Yeah, it's high. A lot of people
Maybe-
don't make it.
yeah.
But the people that don't make it now have a huge work ethic. I mean, let's say you were an aspiring artist and you try, you're going to have some level of work ethic. So there's people that don't make it to the NFL or some, team, but they have that ethic. Some of the most successful people are like athletes that maybe couldn't just make it because we just have, that's really if we're talking about the fabric of the United States, it's built really around hard work. And giving people the opportunity, hey, you can do what you want. You can make as much out of yourself as you'd like, but it's going to require an amount of hard work for sure and obstacles.
Yeah, it's much more hard work than Europe
Yep.
because they have like 8 hours work time and then close door and go home, but not here.
Yeah.
You work as much as it needs.
That's
to
right.
work.
Question. I'm gonna ask you a question, and I'll answer my answer. But it's very interesting your view. America is great country. I mean, young country. But is it fully grown? Is it complete, or it still needs to grow? And my answer to that is looking at these flags. What I don't like is if I have gone right, like you said, it's God's given in Constitution. That's how it got to Constitution. If I have it here, I feel okay. I feel American. But our friend Ucha, who is part of podcast, he lives in New York and he doesn't have. He can't get gun permit because he lives in New York.
Yeah.
So how is it God-given right to Philadelphians and not like?
So
How did New York find a loophole to Constitution?
right. So well,
That's-
to be clear, he can buy a gun. He just can't carry a gun, right?
It's on
Yes.
New York
Yeah,
City.
yeah.
If you live in
Yeah.
city.
So so everybody can, so long as you can pass a background check, you can buy and own a gun, but it'll stay in his house.
So when I said not complete, I'm sorry. In my mind, I would imagine one day in America, I don't know, maybe 100 years after, if I have driver's license, it's American. It's not Pennsylvania license.
well-
or if I have gun permit, I could carry gun everywhere.
Sure. So that's a thing, Max. Like, we are a country of states. We don't want we don't want that. Like, states want their individual rights. Because what's interesting about the states, if especially if you haven't been here, there's 50 different states and they all have their own way of doing things. So let's just say, and people do this all the time, they move, just tons of people just move to Florida. People are moving out because they don't like that a state is like its own little country. So if you don't like the way that it's ran there, you can move to another state.
You have a choice.
You have a choice. You can move to any state you want. You can move out. You can do whatever. But like, let's say that you're somebody that's just sick of the high taxes and the congestion and the tight gun laws of New York City. You can just move a state over to Ohio.
That's happening now
Yeah,
a lot from
big time.
California to Texas.
Yep, and New York to Florida, and
New York
PA
to Florida.
I mean,
yeah.
Florida's seeing insane amounts of people come in, and they're
So you don't think it's kind of negative?
Well,
You think it's good?
Well, as far as like people in urban liberal, it's a liberal state, very, very liberal state, the most, especially that area.
And these guys,
Yeah. So, that is part of the big city experience is that they're going to be liberal. We're in Philadelphia, right? It's a little bit of a challenge to get, and remember, I'm talking about a carrying permit. Like,
I got just
It
a
was
few
easy.
months ago without any question.
yeah, same. Did you get it in Bucks County or Philly?
Philly. Yeah,
Did they make you?
My zip code is from Philly.
Did they make you put some references or anything like that? No. Okay. So good. It should be.
They
it should
didn't
be
even
there.
ask
They
you
maybe-
what gun he has.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they don't. I don't think they care what gun you have. They care if you have bad background. Because
They checked it.
yeah, same. So I carry a gun every day, and I'm carrying a gun right now, and I think that's part of it just becomes part of your life, and I think to speak to carrying permits, I'm certainly like pro gun, but I see people like I'm very, very skilled with guns, and I have a lot of experience with guns, and I have a lot of experience shooting, and I'm very well trained with firearms. Okay. There's a big difference of handing somebody a license or a gun that's never shot one, that doesn't know how to operate them because it's not easy, to really understand and know your gun and how to handle it safely, and somebody that's really experienced. So I'm not for gun control, but I would have to say, just seeing the way that I can see everything I need to know just by the way you hold a gun, or the way that you pass it to somebody, or the way that you operate it, whether or not you have the experience that I think that, and a lot of people probably would say that you should have. So the gun thing is...
From where you have this experience?
I've just had them my whole life. I've always shot, and I hunted, and I've just always been into guns. So, I'll see people holding a loaded gun, and I'll give you like a first rule is you never point the barrel of any gun, loaded or unloaded, at something you don't want to kill, right?
You should see podcast number 3.
Yeah.
He pulled it. It was like gun right talk.
Right.
He pulled it like pointed.
Yeah. Okay. So no.
Not approved.
Yeah. Not approved. Yeah. Delete.
Yeah, but they gave me.
Yeah. So I think what might be nice to see, because there's a lot of talk about guns, is back away from whether or not you can or can't have guns, and how can we have guns more safely, and how can we keep them out of the hands of people that have like crazy, mental issues. I think that's important, because we can't just say like it's America, everybody gets a gun, because they're really fucking dangerous, really dangerous. You really got to know what you're doing, and every day people get killed because they didn't store it properly. They don't know how to.
So you mean the accident?
Accidents every day.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a conversation.
What gun you have?
Which one?
Yeah.
You got a bunch.
Right now you say.
Right now I have. So today today the gun of the day is a revolver. I like a revolver. It's light.
Revolver means like
Yeah, like that. Yeah. So I have revolvers, pistols, and a great thing I think about the States is you can have a semi-automatic rifle. So a semi-automatic rifle, for those that don't know, it's a...
So it means like boom, boom.
And it's a rifle, right? So the rounds are bigger. They're much more powerful.
Oh, okay.
And there's 30 clips, 30 bullets in a magazine. So, and you can fire the whole magazine in 2 seconds. So if something...
So if you want... No, it's automatic.
Semi-auto. So you have to...
Every time you need to do this.
They're
right?
illegal, yeah. So automatic weapons are illegal. People change them to be automatic. But like, what's important about that? That's why the big fight, a lot of it is about the automatic weapon or the semi-automatic, because they're so deadly. It's what the military uses. We use a little bit of a watered down version of what the military has, civilians, and you don't need any like training or anything like that. Which
And you can carry this. It's like
you can.
inside,
Do you want to hear something interesting? Is actually legally, you can open carry anywhere.
Because you cannot hide. This
You can't
thing.
conceal.
Yeah,
So right now, you could walk around with a pistol. The problem with that is it's going to create a problem. Like, you're walking around with a pistol. Like, it's not really a good idea to do in Philly, old city. You can do that in the mountains or whatever, but so it's a little bit weird how the laws are. But I wouldn't mind seeing, maybe again, this might go against the Constitution, the foundation, but a little bit more safety. Like, hey, you want to just go and spend an hour at a class, and I'm here talking about like conservative and everybody should have, but at the same time, I also am open-minded enough to know that maybe people should start spending an hour with an instructor or something like that. We get in it. A car can be a deadly weapon, of course, so can a gun. With a car, you have to have some lessons and pass a test. With most things, you got to do that. I think there might come a day where that could be looked at. I don't know for sure, but I don't know. That's not really for me to decide. That's just my opinion.
Even they have classes for driver license, so you can have something like this.
Yeah, they have those.
Main argument in Georgia, this Girchi party is pro-gun.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
And main argument they battle is, Georgians gonna kill each other.
Can you not have guns at all? Can you buy a gun? Are there gun stores?
Yeah, you can own it, but you cannot carry.
Oh, well then, as soon as you leave your house, the government is basically saying you're
You
on
are
your own.
criminal. You are criminal.
So argument
yes.
is like Georgian temper, kinda. Like, they're gonna kill each other. America is different.
I don't think Irish people has less.
Yeah.
So what do you wanna tell them?
Well, I mean, you can't.
We have 6 Georgian restaurants in Northeast Philly.
Yeah.
And same Georgians go there, but we have guns, but we're not killing each other here. Why would we kill each other there?
Isn't that interesting? Well, so how many people are attacked, innocent people are attacked and murdered, do you think?
In Georgia?
In Georgia. Just assaulted, murdered.
Not as many as in Philly,
But is one person ever attacked, jumped, that had a right?
It was no. That's a thing. Is it was if it was some like accident was illegal guns.
Mm-hmm.
Not even one was with
so all the crimes
legally
happen with illegal guns.
If you are criminal, for you does not matter if it's to carry guns is okay or not, because you're gonna get anyway.
Yeah, well, what I mean
is... And you don't do criminal with a registered gun, right?
Well, guns aside, like if one person is walking down the street and a guy comes in and tries to rob him, gun, not gun, knife, doesn't matter, you have no way of defending yourself. Like, what if you're a 65-year-old man and you're walking down the street alone at night? The government's saying if somebody comes to attack you, you're just on your own. Like to us, it's not fair to not be able to level a fight because you're worried about that people could kill each other. People could kill each other. Actually, people will kill each other. But the way that America's built is that God would say, well, everybody should have an opportunity to defend themselves on an equal playing field. So I shouldn't disadvantage one person because, some other person made a mistake. Why should the little lady, women carry guns here too, of course. Why should the little lady be abducted and raped when she could have had a gun and stopped it, or at least had a fight against, so that 2 drunk guys at a bar get out of hand? It's not fair, right? So it's just the common sense aspect. So
that's what you start today's podcast, like people has right to self-defense.
Right,
so
exactly.
That's how it comes.
Yep.
So it's a major thing for America.
And not only that is, now I think you're allowed to keep guns in your home, but let's say that you elect somebody new and they're a little nuts and they say, you know what, I want to have the military go through the streets and knock on the doors and pull the men out. You know, we are in our Constitution is built against, even though all I have is my own guns. I mean, I got a lot of them and I got body armor. I got all types of shit. But like, even the military, if they came to my house, you know, they'd have to show a huge amount of power to do anything just to me. And there's millions of men like me.
You
here.
mean the government?
The government,
Okay.
right? So that's why it's built like that too, is that we can have them not only on the street to defend against whatever, but also like, let's just say a guy goes a little crazy and he declares martial law and the government, the military's knocking your door down and you're like, what is going on? I did nothing wrong. And they want to hurt you or take something. We've built into the Constitution that we can bear arms to defend ourselves from our own government, which is pretty radical.